So the business model of Bull Bitcoin is very simple. We buy Bitcoin lower and we sell Bitcoin higher. So what that means by that is the same model as any currency exchange that you will see. For example, when you go to the airport. If you go to the airport and you see a currency exchange, you're going to see two things. You're not going to see the price of euro. You're going to see we buy and we sell, right? So that's what we call a spread. So we have our own spread. So we have a price on our website that says we buy at this price and we sell at this price. So when you're paying your bill at Bull Bitcoin, you're selling Bitcoin to us. So Bull Bitcoin is buying the Bitcoin from you. Let's say that our spread is 2%. That's what it is. Right? So the difference between the buy price and the sell price is 2%. So we'll buy a Bitcoin from you at $10,000 per Bitcoin because you're paying your bill. And the other person is buying Bitcoin and we're going to sell it to him at $10,200, right? So as long as we got users that are buying and selling Bitcoin, we are able to create a revenue from the difference in the spread. So that's really just what it is, buy low, sell high. The amount of users that we have is growing very fast over the last year. So for the first 3 years of our existence, so I mean, we started Bills in 2013, and the first wave of big adoption was during the pump in 2017, and now what we're seeing is a lot of a large increase in OTC purchases. So we're seeing a lot more users that are accumulating Bitcoin and holding. So generally speaking, the growth of the company is self-financed by revenue. So we don't have external investors. So the growth that we have is enough to pay for the growth of the business. So for example, we've hired 10 people, for example, in the last year, and all of that was financed by new user volume that is generating us some revenue. That's a very good question. So I've been involved in the Canadian Bitcoin scene for a very long time, and my business partner, Dave Bradley, who co-founded Bull Bitcoin with me, he had a physical Bitcoin store in Calgary. I had a physical Bitcoin store in Montreal. And throughout our experimenting with the business models, we realized that the Canadian market is very different from all other markets in many different ways. One of them is regulation. So we were very proactive in discussing with the regulators, and we managed to get some very good, structured, and kind of less oppressive regulations in Canada. So it's a very good environment for us, and we know it very, very well. The other aspect is it's very difficult for crypto companies to get bank accounts, and if you focus on a certain country like Canada, you develop some very good relationships over time. So instead of looking for banks all over the world, we focus on the banks in Canada. So we managed to get relationships there. And another important reason is that Bull Bitcoin has 3 core values: cypherpunk, Bitcoin maximalist, and skin in the game. So the skin in the game values that we have in philosophy is that we want to be very close to the users. We want the user to be able to see us in person at a meetup, because and we want to serve people that are in our community, the Bull Bitcoin users. We realized one of the reasons we were so good at doing what we do is because the Bull Bitcoin users, they're our friends, they're our family, they're people we know, and we really care about them. So by focusing the users only in Canada, we really keep in touch with the community. So and we are exposed to the criticism and compliments of the community. So if we had, for example, users in France or UK, I mean, we would never see them, we would never hear from them. And Canada is a very, very big market for Bitcoin. I mean, it's disproportionately much larger than every other country. There's 2 things about Canada. First of all, there's been 5 major studies done by 3 different organizations: the Central Bank of Canada, the Ontario Securities Commission, and another one I can't remember. But they all point to the fact that about 5% of Canadians own Bitcoin. That's 1.5 million people, 1.7 million people that own Bitcoin. That's a huge market. I mean, how many Bitcoiners are there in the world right now? Maybe 40, maybe 50. Think about, you know, if we just have a market of 1.5, we're already a company that does revenue, we do profits, and we don't have 1.7 million users. We have far fewer than that. So there is a lot of room for us to grow in Canada. And Canada is also a place where the other Bitcoin exchanges have a difficulty serving well the users because because of the regulation, because of the banking relationship, because of the payment processing, because of illiquidity in order books, and so on and so on. The market is very difficult to penetrate from inside, and our competitive advantage is that we know our market extremely well, and we're not the kind of company that wants to have exponential growth. We want to build infrastructure, we want to build something that's long-lasting, and if you have a small market and you develop slowly by getting very good feedback and iterating over time, you have much more of a solid foundation than if you raise a lot of money and try to expand all over the world. So that was the main reason why we decided to restrict our market. So Bull Bitcoin doesn't have any plan to expand to other countries. However, there is a possibility that because we have our own technology stack that we've been developing for the last 4 years, nothing in Bull Bitcoin software is third-party software. Everything is done from scratch, in-house. We have a development team of 7 people that are working on the software. So the software is kind of like overkill, if you want, for our market. We really put a lot of energy. So what I think we could do is try to find other companies that have the same value and philosophy, Bitcoin maximalists, cypherpunk, people that have skin in the game and that don't want to, that are ready to accept responsible. We could help them use our technology stack in their own jurisdiction with their own business model. So this is something that we're thinking about, but we're pretty happy to stay in Canada. We don't plan to expand anywhere else right now. A lot of what we do in terms of expansion is adding new functionalities and new channels. And what I mean by channel is a method of using Bitcoin in a BTC to fiat way. I'll give you an example. We started out in the beginning, we had only bill payments. So you can send Bitcoin and then you can pay your bills. Then we added third-party payments. So you can send your money to someone that's not a biller, like your landlord or your friend. Then we added gift cards. Then we added the ability to buy Bitcoin with Interact. Then all sorts of channels. We're also thinking about automatic dollar cost averaging. So really, for us, the expansion is not really an expansion of marketing or going into some community or targeting merchants or targeting this kind of user. Our expansion plan is really just make the product very, very good, create new features, find new innovative ways for people to use Bitcoin, and just let them come. So that's the way that we're very product and features oriented. So well, some of the features that we've already integrated, the main one that we've been working on for a while is CoinJoin within Bull Bitcoin by integration with WhatsApp wallet. So what that means is that when users are using our service and they're sending us Bitcoins to pay their bills, for example, those Bitcoin go directly into a CoinJoin. What that does is that it prevents other users of Bull Bitcoin that are also sending Bull Bitcoin to track you. It prevents someone who has access to, for example, if you go on Bull Bitcoin and you pay a bill, you will have one of our Bitcoin addresses, right? You will know what it is because on the website we show it to you. If you're trying to de-anonymize the other users, what you can do is you can send a fraction of a Bitcoin to this address, and then you can follow that Bitcoin and try to see which kind of other person is using Bull Bitcoin. This is a tactic that some companies use in this space, corporate espionage. They're trying to figure out who is the user of my rival, how much volume is my rival doing. So by doing this, we completely obfuscate this, and when you're buying Bitcoin from Bull Bitcoin, they come out of a CoinJoin. So when you buy Bitcoin from Bull Bitcoin, you don't know where it was before. You have no ability to know where it came from. So you have no risk, legal risk. So for example, if you don't know, you just don't know where the Bitcoins came from. If someone says, hey, where did the Bitcoin come from? Say, hey, it comes from Bull Bitcoin. It's mixed. I don't know. I cannot tell you the answer, right? And if someone is trying to buy Bitcoin from us and also de-anonymize the other users, same thing. All they will see is the CoinJoin black box. So this was a big development effort. Most of the features that we're putting forward are features that are derived from our open source project. Our backend is called CipherNode. So the whole Bitcoin backend of Bull Bitcoin is an open source project. And the way that we do it is we add functionality to the backend and then we integrate them in Bull Bitcoin for the users. So a good example is Lightning. So Lightning Network has been implemented in our backend CipherNode for many months now, but we never turned it on for the user because we wanted to understand the liquidity challenges that come with Lightning. Lightning has some challenges for example, when you send Lightning payments to a user, you need to have a channel with him, you need to have enough liquidity, you need to rebalance your channels. So we had to experiment a little bit on that, but we're going to be announcing, in the near future that we're accepting Lightning payments on bills, and that, yeah, definitely this year. So I mean, in the next 3 months, we're going to be turning on Lightning Network payments in 3 or 4 months, something like that. Lightning Network payments in, but also very interestingly, Lightning payments out of our system. So when you buy Bitcoin from us, you will be able to get Bitcoins directly sent to you over the Lightning Network, which is a very cool feature. Another big feature that we're working on is we're working on the Liquid sidechain integration, so the Elements platform by Blockstream. So we're going to become a federation. We're becoming a federation member of Liquid, and we're going to accept Liquid BTC payments, just like we accept Bitcoin payments, and just like we accept Lightning payments. And when you buy Bitcoin on Bull Bitcoin, we're going to be able to send them using the Bitcoin blockchain on-chain, using Lightning, or using the Liquid sidechain. So we're going to add this kind of payment method for Bitcoin in and out, which is a very neat functionality. Some of the stuff that we're working on is ways to make the experience of buying Bitcoin less complicated. And one of the ways to do that is dollar cost averaging. So I always tell my users, the users have a big problem, which is they fund their Bitcoin account, and then they want to buy, and they panic. So, is it too high? Is it too low? I don't know. The price is going up. What do I do? And they're freaking out, and it's a very bad experience because it's stressing them out. Like they have a feeling like they might make a mistake, they might miss out, the price might go down or something like this. So a feature that we're trying to introduce is something that I think Get Bitter, a company, has innovated on that in Europe, is automatic dollar cost averaging. So what that means is we will basically purchase Bitcoin for you on a fixed scheduled basis, so that you don't have to decide when you're buying Bitcoin. You can just say, for example, I want to buy $10,000 of Bitcoin, and we will create a program where you're buying 100 Bitcoin every hour, or buying a Bitcoin, $100 worth of Bitcoin every day, or every week, or something of that nature, so we can average out your costs. I mean, there's a lot of features that we're working on. Hardware wallet integration. We want people to be able to use their hardware wallet directly in Bull Bitcoin. The hardware wallets that we use is Trezor and Coldcard. So these are the two. Nothing bad to say about the other ones. It's just that these are the two ones that we are knowledgeable about and that we believe are secure. One thing that I'm very interested in is integrating a new Bitcoin feature called partially signed Bitcoin transactions. So this is a new way basically to do offline signing of Bitcoin transactions. I would very much like our users to be able to use this feature with the Coldcard wallet, which is right now the only hardware wallet that uses this. But really, I mean, the people that are designing and building the features of Bitcoin are all early Bitcoin adopters. Everybody at the company uses our own service. We use our own service to pay the bills. We use so I mean, whenever we think of a new feature, we can add it. And this is the good thing about having your own development team. A lot of the exchanges have third-party software companies that are developing for them, and white label solutions that they are using to run their exchange. For us, it's different. We have our own tech team in-house, so whenever we want a feature, we have a coffee, we say, hey guys, should we integrate, Liquid? All right, let's have a look. Oh, let's do it. All right, let's go for it. So we have built a model where we can basically integrate any feature we want, and we use that model a lot. So I think the most interesting trend that I've seen is that a lot of Bitcoiners are paying their taxes with Bitcoin. So there's multiple reasons why that may have. Yeah. Well, you got to pay taxes, and a lot of them have Bitcoin holdings. And for example, a lot of them invested in shitcoins, right? A lot of Canadians bought the Ethereum ICO. They did everybody that bought the Ethereum ICO did 100x, right? And they have a lot of capital gains that they have to pay. So people have been using our services more and more to pay off the taxes, which is very interesting. A lot of users have started to use a lot their credit cards, and instead of selling Bitcoin and then getting money in their bank account, they use credit cards and they accumulate a debt on the credit card. And when the price of Bitcoin goes up, they pay off the debt, right? So it's kind of like, hey, I believe that over the next 2 years, over the next year, I'm paying 15% a year. I'm pretty sure Bitcoin price might go up more than 15%. So a lot of users, they will just sit on the debt, accumulate the debt, and when there's a spike, they sell the Bitcoin and they pay off their bill like this. If you have in Canada a credit card, you do not need to have a bank account. Like, I don't have a personal bank account. I haven't had a personal bank account for the past 3.5 years, 4 years, but I do have a credit card. So what I do is I put I buy everything with the credit card. I go to the ATM, I withdraw cash from the credit card. That means that I never have fiat. I have fiat debt, right? So I start at 0 fiat and I go into negative fiat, and then I also do that. I pay off my credit card bill with bills, with Bold Bitcoin, the service. So this is a way to kind of unbank yourself. So that's kind of the trends I've been seeing. Okay. I think Canada's crypto scene is peculiar. I think Ethereum was launched in Canada, right? So Toronto is the Ethereum capital of the world. Ethereum had a lot of influence in Canada, both in terms of investors, private blockchain, people that want to do prototypes and stuff like that. And Bold Bitcoin and the Bold Bitcoin team has always been very big Bitcoin maximalists. So we try to have an influential voice for Bitcoin maximalism that was kind of an answer to the Ethereum narrative. And I think we've definitely seen this change happen. So people are becoming focusing again on Bitcoin. So the classic Bitcoiner journey is you start in Bitcoin, then you get into mining, then you get into shitcoins, and then you get back into Bitcoin. I think this is a phenomenon that is the same all over the world, but in Canada specifically, because we run the meetup in Montreal and we run the meetup in Calgary, I think this has been maybe more so than somewhere else. I don't believe. No, a lot of people, they adopt this narrative that Bitcoin is a store of value, not a means of payment, because they're trying to make a point. They're trying to make the point that the store of value is the use case that we should be focusing on now. But Bitcoin is a fantastic payment system. I think. I mean, I run a Bitcoin payments company for 6 years. I've been accepting Bitcoin payments for 6 years. Never had a problem. Never had a chargeback. The fees have been high, really only 2 or 3 weeks in the whole history of Bitcoin. This was about December 2017 when someone was spamming the Bitcoin blockchain in order to increase the fees, presumably to promote a narrative for forking, who knows. But other than this period of spike in high fees, we've never had any problem. And I see a lot of, there's millions and millions and tens of millions of dollars of bill payment that go through our system every year. I think we have definitely a few years before the congestion on the main chain really becomes a problem. I can't say how long. It depends on how Bitcoin evolves, how much user adoption there is. But I was looking at the Bitcoin fees the other day, and you can get the next block for 15 Satoshi per byte, and 1 hour 1 Satoshi per byte. Even at some points during the night on EST time, it's 1 Satoshi per byte, the minimum fee to get into the next block. Bitcoin is not, and the most important is not even store of value for me. It's unit of account, right? So people must, the core value proposition and feature of Bitcoin is that things are priced in Bitcoin. The dollar pricing disappears over time, right? So store of value and also a point I want to make is people confuse means of payment and people confuse means of exchange to method of payment, right? For something to be a means of exchange, it doesn't necessarily have to be a payment method. For example, how fast or slow is the dollar payment? Well, it depends on the means of payment, right? So the dollar itself is a means of exchange. You are able to exchange your time and your labor or your goods for value. That's what considers it a means of exchange. The method of payment is something that's completely separate from that category. So as long as it is possible to use Bitcoin as a payment method, it is a means of exchange, and the payment methods will vary in their quality, right? So when you're judging, is Bitcoin good for a payment? Are you talking about Lightning payments? Are you talking about liquid BTC payments? Are you talking about off-chain payments? Are you talking about on-chain payments? Are you talking about custodial wallet to custodial wallet payments? It depends. But as far as I can say, I'm a Bitcoin shill. I love Bitcoin. I always say good things about Bitcoin. So I'm very biased, but I can say very honestly, from a payments processing perspective, if I put my very neutral hat on, had almost no issue accepting Bitcoin for the last 5 or 6 years. So that makes it a pretty good payment system to me.